Hello, and you're very welcome to the Nurses with JMAC podcast. I'm John Mann, and of course, this podcast is brought to you by orgarich.com and Atak.ie. Using the promo code JMAC podcast to get 15% off on orgarich.com and get the best skins, gloves, and equipment on Atak.ie. Be attack minded. And if you like what you're seeing, like and subscribe to YouTube because the support's been absolutely brilliant so far. And tonight, I'm joined by Kevin McGarty and Paul Hardy to talk about all of this weekend's action and next weekend action. So lots to talk about, lots to discuss, and lots of banter ahead. So it's a big welcome back to All Ireland Club winner, Paul Hardy. How have you been keeping, Paul?
Oh, yeah, it's not a bother. Yeah, not too bad. Keeping busy. Not been available for a while, but it's been a busy few sort of weeks and months back, coaching and stuff. So I haven't been available. So apologise for that there, lads. But good to see your lovely faces again.
And out of the 50 members in the podcast group, who do you miss most, or who have you missed most?
I miss Kevy's Scottish twang there, you know what I mean? That Scottish twang's really coming through. I'm just starting to miss that a lot there, you know, because all I'm seeing is the texts and a few YouTube videos, but, you know, really miss that lovely Scottish twang these guys there from Glasgow.
Very good. Kev, how are you keeping?
I'm great, John. Really love today's football, really entertaining. Great to see Big P back. Obviously sobered up after 3 days on the Razzle. Patrick's Day, Friday night, Saturday. So glad to see he made it the Armagh back today, so he can give us a great insight into the game, as was a guy was at it. But yeah, it's really interesting. But look, I don't think we've ever seen a National Football League like this before across all 4 divisions. I was thinking before we come on here, there's only 3 teams, maybe 4 teams know their fate going into the last weekend of the league. So that's pretty amazing when you have 32 teams taking part, and you know we're in for some games next weekend and some amount of action, and you know you never know, the last 2 All-Ireland winners could be relegated from Division 1 this time next week. So it's going to be pretty it's going to be a pretty eventful week, and obviously again a short turnaround after next week right into the championship. So momentum for teams is going to be so big and going into them games, but really looking forward to getting into it with Paul and yourself.
100%. London was the place to be this weekend, Kev.
Yeah. So see, from the early, well, we'll call it the early kickoff. I think Cavan maybe had a bit of a hangover by the looks of things, but they just about got through.
Jeez,
throw in, Kevin. Throw in. Don't say kickoff, please.
Sorry, Paul.
Come on, up there in Scotland now. Come on. Get it.
Brilliant stuff. And before we crack into the action, Paul, we can't go any further without talking about your big night on Friday night, celebrating the O2 winners, the All-Ireland O2 winners. So it looked like a sensational night's crack, and I believe Oisin put the hand in the pocket.
Yeah, apparently so. Oisin was there, bought drinks for everybody. Hey, unbelievable. Not take him. You know, he's tight, like he is tight. He's nearly as bad as yourself there, John. That's where he was swimming around Cavan. But
he owned a pub in Cavan, Virginia.
That's right, he did indeed. I never actually got to frequent it, you know, at the time, but apparently it was a good enough spot to go back in the day. But no, a great night on Friday night. You know, first and foremost, for a great cause. You know, James Reel, unfortunately, he passed away last April. He tragically passed away, and the family trying to get a play park built in his memory at the Silver Bridge Clubhouse in just out the road here, a neighbouring club to ourselves. And it was wonderful that all the boys, you know, 75% of the boys turned up for the night. It was great to get catching up with all them boys, and you know they're trying to raise funds to get this play park built. I think they have a target of 100,000 or something. And I think they're well on their way. I think they've up in 60 to 70,000 raised already. So it was a fantastic night. It was really well done. Joanne Cantwell was MC. They had a great panel up at the front of Benny, Geezer, Oisin, Big Joe, and Tomas O'Shea and Peter Cavan were there as well, just to, you know, keep the flavour going for the night. Tomas O'Shea, he had to swallow a bit of pride, I suppose, being the Kerry man and us reminiscing on O2 and them been beating the final. But, you know, he was very good, and he had great insight into the Kerry way of thinking for the final, and Peter was up there, and he was very good. Sort of after he made the crap, are we getting on the 03 yet, lads? You know, he was very good and very witty. Him and Benny go back a long way too, and you know, plenty of yarns from yesteryear, and it was great to catch up with the boys. And huge crowd there. You know, it was well backed and well organised, and it was, you know, it's a credit to the family the way they went about their business, and hopefully, you know, get this thing built for the memory of James Reel. It was a lovely fella. And
to go from that to this doesn't get any much better.
That's it. It's the pinnacle. You know what I mean? That's how we roll. You know what I mean? We roll with the high rollers in here on the GM podcast, lads.
And very last one there, Paul. It's great to have a night like that because you probably don't get much of a chance. Probably the COVID maybe took away a few chances to meet up with the lads. So things are back to normal again, Paul. So great to have a few pints with the lads.
Yeah, certainly. You know, it's been a while since you meet up. You try to organise these things, but, you know, people's lives get in the way, and it can be hard to meet up at times. But that was a perfect chance on Friday night. And, you know, beforehand, there was a bit of a drinks reception in the wee lounge beside the Carrickdale, and we met up and caught up and a few chats and a bit of crack. And yeah, it's good to see all the guys, see how things is going. You know, everybody busy, but, you know, everybody has kids now. Most of the boys have kids, and, you know, everybody's the same. They're running around looking at the kids, going to camogie matches, football matches, and trying to fit in. There's a lot of them involved in coaching, and, you know, it's the same all across everywhere. So we're all busy doing that there, and busy at the weekends, and, you know, life goes on. You know, we had a great time. I suppose lived in each other's pockets for so many years back in the noughties, and you know, you try and make time when these things do arise to attend them and to see the guys, because back in the day, something very special that we went through in 02, and you know, it's good to keep the thing going and keep the crack together among the boys. Special group.
100%. Was the hangover bad?
It wasn't too bad. You know, it was a good chat all night, and, you know, it was only a few pints really, and, you know, it ended up probably home about 1:30, 2 o'clock. It wasn't really one of them a bender, shall I say? So we were quite sensible.
What do you think of that, Kev? Was it as sensible as he says?
I'd say that man had 15 pints of stout before 1 o'clock anyway.
Jesus, 15. You know what age I am, hey?
Tell us, Paul.
The age I'm not fit for 15 pints anymore. That's what age I am.
I tell you what, Paul, thank God Johnny Murtagh's not on tonight. He'd be roasting you.
Oh, he can try his best. Hey, water over duck's back.
Great stuff.
I was actually chatting to him at the game today at half time, so I had a brief chat with John today, yeah.
Any crack, or was he abusing us, or was he giving us any banter?
No, we're just actually chatting about the game and about how things are going. It was quite a normal chat, yeah.
Right, very good. Right, hot off the press, lads. We could touch on to yesterday's action. It was Tyrone against Mayo in Healy Park, Division 1, Round 6. Good bit of shadow boxing going on here, I'd say. Poor quality game, but Tyrone, they're laughing to the bank. 11 points to Mayo's 9. Paul, what did you make of the game?
Yeah, it was. I suppose it's coming to that time of the season where I think there's going to be a bit of shadow boxing coming up. There is against, you know, Mayo probably trying to push through, make sure they're staying up in the division. Tyrone the same, and Tyrone coming out on top. You know, it was tit for tat sort of the whole way. We expect Tyrone probably to a bit of a shake now towards this for championship in a few weeks, and, you know, they played rightly. I see Darry Cavan really coming into the fray. He's getting a lot more game time, and he got the winner towards the end, and you know, you can see the pressure starting to come onto a few teams with you know, there's places for begging there on a lot of teams, and you can see there's probably teams at this stage with only the few weeks built up in the champ, probably trying to get a bit of hard training sessions in. So I'm expecting the games not to be going hell for leather, but teams probably be a wee bit leggy in that there. But, you know, the Tyrone guys done enough to get over the line, and Mayo the same. Mayo are just didn't travel that well, and, you know, 9 points, it was poor enough, probably fair at the same time, and you know, it was probably a low enough scoring scoring game. But you know, it's good going forward that we see the two teams, you know, at the top of the table. Well, there's so much to play for, and I'm looking forward to the next game to see how they fare. But overall, I wasn't really that impressed by the standard of the thing. But you know, it's that time of year where, you know, the pitches are only drying out, and we're not getting to see the full hand of the teams, you know.
Is there much to worry about from, say, like a Mayo and Tyrone kind of perspective, Paul? Because obviously we kind of seen, like, you know, preparation for the championship, it's going to come thick and fast. So is there much to worry about? Is there lots to work on? I know both teams have lots to players to bring back, but is there any kind of, you know, signals of, you know, intentions here? So because we're really thinking, like, you know, Tyrone, they'll be looking for a massive year. Mayo will be looking for a massive year. Tyrone probably did go out of it in the second half, Paul. So is there much need for concern, or no panic stations just yet?
No panic. I think, if you know, as Kerry alluded to earlier, is, you know, Tyrone and Dublin are in big danger of probably going down. You know what I mean? Next weekend is a massive weekend with a lot of different stipulations with teams being so close in points. I'd say, you know, if they can stay up, you know, it is a better place to be playing league football. I don't think it's the end of the world to be going down. You know what I mean? But you're just not going to get the same standard of games. And I think that's probably important for the likes of Armagh and that, they to stay up and get another more year in Division 1, whereas Tyrone have always been up there. You know, Mayo have been up there a long time. And I don't think some teams, it mightn't be too bad to maybe go down to Division 2 and sort of regroup. But, you know, you can see, I don't think everyone will be pushing the you know, the panic buttons just yet. You can see teams are really, it is so close, and it will come down to next week who really wants to stay in the division or not. And probably a lot of teams will be keeping the powder dry for the championship. So I think the preparation really is starting now for the championship, and, you know, they're not going to be letting too many secrets out of trying too many moves and kickouts, strategies and all that. They'll be keeping a lot of stuff in-house, and they'll be just going for more simpler stuff, I think. So I don't think there'll be too much concern if teams remain safe, but there will be a bit of an edge on teams to, if they really want to stay in the division, they will be putting a bit of pressure on for higher performances and better performances in the next couple of games.
Kev, what about yourself, obviously, because kind of following on from that, obviously we did see Mayo kind of performance throughout. Aidan O'Shea was listed to start centre half back, and we were talking in the group chat last night that, you know, he kind of looked and bothered there. He wasn't really getting up the pitch. Is that the position for him? Should he maybe come off the bench? But I'd probably more concerns for Mayo than there is for Tyrone after that game, Kev.
Yeah, it's very difficult to understand what Mayo were doing last night. I heard John Casey this afternoon on RT Radio maybe describing it as a bit of shadow boxing for Mayo, more than anything else. Obviously, Aidan O'Shea letting out of that position was quite, you know, an eye-opener when the team was announced. But we also have to understand there was no Rob Henley last night. There was no Paddy Durkin last night. Kevin McLaughlin only came off the bench. We didn't see Jason Doherty play. So, you know, Conor Loftus only got 2 or 3 minutes towards the end. So really one has to wonder, you know, what Mayo were playing at, you know, what was really in the mind going up there. Look, the game was sort of, for Tyrone, it was the reverse opposite of what happened the previous week against Dublin. They get off to a really good start. They lead 8-3 at half time. A really, really good first half. You know, they got out of the blocks this week. The game was so important to them, and that important start, you know, obviously Fergal and Brian have emphasised that they needed to get that. The indiscipline that they showed last week in the tackle wasn't as obvious this week. They didn't give an awful lot away. I want to talk about Conor Myler and Petey Hart. Between them, they scored 0-5. The industry, the work of both of them guys was incredible. Conor Myler looked really back to his best last night. You know, up and down the park, when he didn't have a ball, the work off the ball was really, really good. As I say, he contributed to the scoreboard. He seems to just ghost into positions at times, you know, when they really need him. So he really stood up and was a leader last night. Petey Hart, 0-3 at times. You know, his play was just delicious. You know, that pickup that he got, you know, it was something like you would see on the beach in Rio. You know, it was just a beautiful bit of skill, and, you know, the finish was delectable. So, you know, again, from that point of view, it's really good for Tyrone to see them leaders stand up. I'm really worried about Tyrone at the minute as a force this year. I spoke to Matty last week, and I spoke to Dan when they asked me what I thought Tyrone's problem was, and I said structure. And Paul has articulated that Derek Hanneman did pop up and he's right. He did pop up with a winning score, but when I was looking at the game last night, on the 21st minute, Darragh Canavan was in his own full backline, winning, breaking ball. That's not where we want to see him as supporters. That's not where his best, assets are. It's up front, the jink, taking on a man, taking a score, So I think Tyrone have structural issues still. And the other big point I want to make about Tyrone in the first half yesterday was, once again, they were cleaned out at midfield. Absolutely cleaned out. Colin Kirkpatrick is a very, very good player, and so is Brian Kennedy. Last year obviously was the first breakthrough year for them two guys. I think they're suffering a wee bit from second season syndrome. Flynn and Ruan in the middle of the park really bullied them. I think between the two of them, they scored 0-3 from the middle of the park yesterday for, running from deep. In fairness, I think Tyrone's seen that issue. And the point I want to make here is that whilst Tyrone's second half was a bit lackluster, the introduction of the two Donnelly brothers, Richie and Matty, was a real big, important juncture in the game. Matty won good primary ball. Richie was up and down the park. Yes, he made one or two rash decisions, but listen, that was a big plus for them. And obviously the conditions played a part. Mayo only scored 3 times in the first half, but they had only 4 scores overall. Mayo and Kevin McLaughlin come on, made a rash decision for a shot. There was 1, 3 or 4 they put into the goalkeeper's hands. So it wasn't a Mayo that we've seen over the past 4 or 5 weeks really consistent. It was a really poor performance from Mayo overall, and that's not taking anything away from Tyrone. They could only play the team that was in front of them. As I say, Myler and Hart stood up very well. Matty Donnelly comes on, does rightly. And I suppose from the other point of view, from the Mayo point of view, they're going into the last game now against Kildare. You would expect them to win that game, if I'm honest with you, even though it's in Carrick-on-Shannon. I would expect them to get to the league final, get another good games prep in, probably against Kerry in a league final before they go into that Connacht Championship. Generally, before last night, I liked the way Mayo were moving. I liked the wee bit of depth in their squad. But last night, as I said to you before, it's a 7-game league. You're always going to have that one lackluster performance. Mayo did really well down in Kerry. That was a nipper-tuck game. Maybe this was their lackluster performance in the league. But Tyrone needed to win. Credit to them. They got the win. They're still not out of trouble. And you know what? To go to Clarny this weekend, which we'll talk about, and then Kerry after last year would love to bury them down to Division 2. So, Tyrone are going to need to find another big performance. But worrying signs for Tyrone in midfield, and again, worrying signs about their structure up front. Sorry, the last thing I should have said was worrying as well that there was no Conor McKenna, who's an important player for them. And Cavan McShane really at the minute isn't firing on all cylinders. Are they really going to go back and say, right, let's take Cavan McShane, let's not start him anymore. Let's take him from that impact from the bench that he had such a key role in when they won the All-Ireland last year. So, a lot of worrying signs from midfield upwards for Tyrone moving forward.
We're trying to get Kyle Coney back, and he's not budging, Kev.
He's not even budging on the podcast,
well, if this paints any picture, he sent me a picture of a can of attendance earlier on, so I think that shows where his intentions are. Yeah, Kyle, if you're watching, we miss you. So hopefully you can jump on soon. We will move on to today's action in the Athletic Grounds. It was Kerry 113, Armagh 13 points, and no better man to ask. Paul, what was the verdict in this game?
Yeah, a game where I thought Armagh, I suppose we'll start with Armagh and my home county. I thought Armagh, the problem really was we probably give Kerry far too much of a start, going 7-1 down or 6-1 down, and then it went to 7-2, and then they had 4. We made a bit of a comeback, but have probably the best team in the country at the minute, and to give them that sort of a head start was it was tough work. It was seemed to be too much to peg back. They're very good up front, but in saying that, Armagh showed a lot of grits, showed a lot of determination to peg them back. They didn't let the game run away from themselves. Kerry Armagh were playing up against the wind in the first half, up the hill, as I say, and against the wind in the first half. So it probably didn't seem, going in a half time, I think it was 8-4 down, insurmountable because of the way the wind was blowing, because it was quite blustery as well, even though it looked gorgeous, with the sunshine and everything that there. It was quite a blustery day, and the wind was directly down the field into the town goals. But it was a very impressive start from Kerry. They come out of the blocks at a blistering pace, and when they got up the field, they just seemed to take their chances. And in saying that, they missed quite a few as well. That being the case with the both teams, there was a lot of chances missed. Armagh went down, just seemed to snatch at a few chances that they got. There seemed maybe a wee bit of a low over elaboration in the forward line, and when they did get a chance, they seemed to be under pressure, which is probably a credit to the Kerry defence. They come out and they didn't seem to get plenty of a press on the boys, and it is credit to them that when they did shoot, that they were under so much pressure, and ultimately probably the chance was gone and it went wide. But Armagh, for their credit, they really ducked down in the second half. Giza made a couple of changes, brought on, he took off Roland and took off Jamar Hall, and I think came Conor O'Neill and young Duffy, I think it was, wasn't it? And it changed about a bit. It gave the attack a bit of a springboard and a step. But then again, I suppose Kerry had the luxury of bringing David Clifford off the bench at half time, and he bags 1-2, so that's the type of team you're up against. But after Clifford bagged the goal, Armagh had a chance literally a couple of minutes later, and to their sub Jason Duffy come on, and Jason Duffy would be having nightmares about that one. He just went down the field and literally straight at Shane Ryan. He couldn't have put it anywhere else. The other side of him, it was a goal. You know what I mean? It was just one of them chances, and unfortunately, it went straight down Shane Ryan's throat, and he caught it, and the chance was gone. But it was the game overall probably poor enough fair with the way there seemed to be a lot of mistakes, a lot of handling errors, a lot of drop balls. I suppose one feature of Armagh sort of come back to get at him and in nipping distance of Kerry was we pressured the short kick out. Whenever the Shane Ryan took the short kick outs, Rian O'Neill and Jason Duffy and Rory Grugan, they put the pressure on the cornerbacks and the fullbacks who got the ball and overturned them on a few occasions, and turned into handy frees just to tip over the bar, and that kept us going. It was good to see that sort of intensity in the thing, and we did get a couple of turnovers and put a bit of pressure on Kerry ourselves, but we as I said earlier, I think Armagh will have a lot more to learn out of this game than probably what Kerry will. Kerry would be a more of a finished product than what Armagh are. We're still nipping on the coattails of the teams who are at the higher end, and we're quitting ourselves quite well. But we really need to push on come championship time in the next few weeks. Geezer has the game next week against Donegal, which I don't know what way he's going to approach that with playing them in the championship in Ballybuffet in a few weeks. There could be, as Kevin said earlier, a bit of shadow boxing going on, and maybe not revealing too much of a team or a hand. But listen, every game's televised this last while, and it's been full strength teams for everybody. So how much can you hide? But Kerry was a good test for Armagh today. We didn't take our chances. Kerry could probably say the same, and we come out just 3 points behind them. So listen, a lot of positives to take out of it. Plenty of stuff to work on. And that's what you want going forward into probably the last game of the league and the Ulster Championship.
But it is obviously very kind of positive signs, and there's a lot of good stuff to take from that game, Paul, because obviously it was only 3 points in the end. It was a very good second half performance by Armagh. Super Campbell had a great game. We've seen Rian O'Neill glimpses. Charlie O'Byrne is very good. So there is lots of positive 3 points against probably the best team in Ireland at the minute. That's good intentions going into the championship, Paul.
Yeah, definitely. The players you mentioned there, Charlie O, all young guys. Rian O'Neill, he's up there, one of the best players in the country. He was quiet today by his standards, was still chipped in with 5 points. He done quite well, and Rory Grugan chipped in with a good few scores too. Charlie Oak was there. making some good direct runs and in fielding balls. Neil Grimley come on too at half time. As I said, the two boys come on, Jason Duffy as well. You know, there's a bit of strength and depth there. The guys that are coming on, you know, are well able to back up what's going on the field. So we're definitely building. There's definitely experience there. We've been there in Division 1 last year, although it was the COVID division, shall we call it. We're playing all the sort of the Northern Division 1 teams, but we're slowly getting a bit of momentum going forward. We're there. We probably have a chance. I think whatever way results go next week, if we win, I think if Mayo are beat, is it next week? I think we can go forward into the league final. So we'll see after what goes on next week. Is a bit of a mathematical conundrum next week and results and scores and that there. But you know, I'm looking forward to this year's championship. You know, Donegal is going to be a real stick a banana skin below, and then particularly with them being in the last game next week, I don't know what way Gizo would like to approach it. I know we'd like to win the game because every game is there to be won, but we definitely have players there who are improving all the time, getting better, getting more experienced. As I said before, I think our forwards can score heavy and our defence maybe can just be a wee bit more organised, and I think we have been improving on that front so far this season. But you know, 3 points off Kerry this time of the year, you know, we'll take that going forward, and we've a lot to work on.
Did you get a picture with Clifford after the game?
I ran out, but hey, as I said, I'm getting on. I couldn't catch him.
You didn't get to touch him. You didn't get to see him in the flesh.
But it was actually crazy. We sat behind in the terrace after the game, and the amount of kids that ran onto that field, like,
yeah,
you wouldn't have been able to run the kids. You would have trampled a couple of them. Like, it was mental. All going down to get a look at them or a picture or a selfie. But it was great to see. Listen, it's great to see kids and all that going on the field, so interested in the players around the country. Like, years ago, you wouldn't really seen as much as that going on now, but it's pretty hectic now. People mad looking selfies. So it's great to see all them kids at the game today. Surely
that was your position when you were playing back in the day. Swamped.
No, I would walk off on my own. Well, it wasn't a slap in the back. It was usually a kick in the arse.
And here, if it was Cross getting bait, which wasn't very often at all, or else Armagh getting bait, you were avoiding Big Hardy after the game. You might have got kept in the year.
Yeah, just get me out of there.
Kev, what was your thoughts on events that took place in Armagh today?
Very little to add. Paul was very, very comprehensive. Obviously, he was at the game. The only thing for me, really, a couple of things I want to add is that, look, it's absolutely unbelievable that, like, Paul's talking about Friday night when Armagh were in the big time. And all of a sudden, I think Armagh really are back in the big time now. You know, they're competing. They've been very competitive in every game in Division 1. I think if you went to Geezer tonight and said, look, you have 7 points on the board here, you know, if you had offered them at the start of the league, he would have said yes. You've been competitive in every game. These young lads, as you know, the Jordy Oaks of this world, you know, the Greg McCabe's, the James Morgans, you know, Jamar Halls, Kieran Hanlon's, they're getting great exposure now to playing against top class players. They've been inside Croke Park for 70 minutes. You know, they've been played against Kerry now, they played against Mayo. So, you know, that's you can't buy that sort of stuff. And they're really, really competitive. And, you know, Paul has made a really good point. When you look at the match, you can't give a team that start. Then you look just after half time, you know, fortuitous goal, obviously by Clifford, you know, you can't give away stuff like that when he's around. But then Armagh get that opportunity. And, you know, the more that Jason might have nightmares about that, but the issue is, you know, he's going to learn from it. And this is how you learn, right, in this environment. And, you know, as I say, Armagh are really, really going places, a bit of strength and depth. They've 7 different scores today. You know, Ryan O'Neill again, the development of him. He's up against Jason Foley. Was not a brilliant matchup. Wasn't it great to see Paulie Clifford up against James Morgan? You know, so 11,000 in there today. Fabulous. Bit of a nip and tug about it, bit of needle about it, which was beautiful to see 4 weeks out from the championship. So, you know, lots of positives to take away from Armagh, you know, for Armagh moving forward, you know, and I think Paul would admit this is a really big year for Armagh in the Ulster Championship because, you know, the Ulster Championship, whether we have the All-Ireland champions in Tyrone in there, or whether we have a Donegal that has been so impressive, or Monaghan that has been so impressive over the last 7-8 years. We have a common Kerry team. We have a certainly common Armagh team. So it's wide open also this year. For the first time in maybe 10 years, 11 years, it's really, really wide open. And Armagh's one of them teams. And, this exposure is going to be really good to them. On the flip side of that, Kerry are a juggernaut. One thing I have to say to Paul, and I really liked his point about this, Kerry's big problem is at the back, as we know. And I still don't think, isn't it amazing to think that they have Dermot Murphy on the sideline as one of their selectors, and they haven't bloody well replaced him since in Kerry. And that's been one of their big problems. And, when the kick-out press was there today, the Kerry defence is a wee bit wobbly. Shane Ryan, okay, he's been in and out of the team over the last 2-3 years. Kerry have still issues in there. They've an abundance of talent up front, but the big positive for Kerry coming away from this match is it's the second game in a row where I've seen their midfield is starting to come on and really gel. Jack Barry and Jeremy O'Connor in particular is a hell of a player. So, that's an area that maybe they, after the retirement of David Moore, they were maybe looking at a guy to step up to the mark there. Jeremy O'Connor sort of done that. And that's a big plus for them going forward. Also, the performance of Jack Savage. So Kerry can take a wee bit away from it as well. Look, an element of shadow boxing as well, but I'm really liking the trajectory Armagh are on. There's a lot of positives coming from there, and it's good to see.
What did you make of GAA goals coverage, Kev?
I'll plead the fifth on that. It was very delayed.
Was that the GAA go, or was it the GAA dodgy box you were on?
I think it was the dodgy box, Paul, but we'll say nothing.
Where did you get that, by the way? Did you say?
Fella, give me a number. It's out of my phone now, Paul. It's out of my phone. Don't know.
Right, okay. I got you.
I wish I could pass it on. They'll probably not pick up the signal down there in South Armagh.
Oh, we have great Wi-Fi down here. Unbelievable. Great Wi-Fi.
In fact, I tell you who got it from. It was Johnny Murray sent me it.
That makes sense.
Oh, God. Oh, golly. Just to go on your point there, Kevy, I think, as you said, the thing is opening up. Ulster is winding up. I think the whole lot of Ireland is probably has widened up since Dublin has come back into the pack a wee bit, as you say, although in the last couple of games they've shown a wee bit more of metal and have shown a bit of the Dublin of old, and they're coming back to themselves. But if it is to be believed, they're back in the pack a wee bit, you have, instead of maybe a top 2 or 3, which we've sort of believed of this last few seasons, I think we're probably into the 5 or 6 maybe category. You have your Dublin, Tyrone, Kerry, shall we say Mayo, that's 4. 5 and 6, you could be talking maybe would Armagh be in that category, possibly maybe in the 5 or 6, top 5 or 6 in the country, maybe, yeah. But I think if the only thing about it is that the Ulster Championship is a minefield, you know what I mean? And we all know that. You could be playing great stuff and win the Ulster Championship and have a fucking damn script of a game and we'll bet. You know what I mean? And yeah. Donegal, the game in Letterkenny next week for Armagh, where the championship game is in Ballybuffet. So there's a bit of mind game starting already. You can see that. And, are we going to go into the Ulster Championship? We'll not have the benefit of playing in Ballybuffet, but which they have played all their other games in Ballybuffet. So, it's Declan Bonner's at Dale tricks. But that's par for the course, and that's the way it's going. And sure, what about it? We'll hopefully beat them there anyway. But it does bode well, for Armagh playing consistently in Division 1. As you say, Kevy, playing well, being competitive in every game they played. There's no big defeats or anything. Really started off well, the 2 wins against Tyrone and Dublin, and a damn squib against Mayo. Monaghan was a draw. Defeat today against probably the form team in the country. But as you say, a very competitive game, missed chances. Lads coming on, just a wee bit of an experience, maybe coming through at certain times. But as you say, Kerry at the back today, you could see they were there for a bit. You could put a bit of pressure on, the kickouts went to the corner backs, and when they did go to the corner backs, if they did find that they were a wee bit exposed, but not exposed, but he put the kick out to the corner back when he had no help. And with the new rule is you can't put it back to the keeper. He was having to go one-on-one and beat air forward, be it Rian O'Neill or Rory Grugan or Jason Duffy, whoever it was. And Air boys, in fairness, put the pressure on and got the frees that they deserved, whatever they were over carrying or that there. So they probably, as you said, the kickouts probably didn't go where he wanted them. The boys out the middle of the field were really competitive, and then he was going for the short ones, and our boys didn't give the kick out away as such, but the pressure went on straight away as they got the ball, and we got some turnovers and we got some results out of that there. But going forward, we can't not be but a wee bit excited about where things are going for this Armagh team, and being as competitive as we are, we're in with a shout of winning the first game against Donegal, because we can't look any further than that.
And John, just working out the maths there. I had Carol Vorderman on speed dial there. Mayo and Armagh are +9, and Mayo are +7 going into this weekend's games. So a win for Armagh, any sort of win, and Mayo not beating Kildare by a huge amount, and you could be in a league final, Paul.
Yeah, well, there you go. And Kildare, after pegging 23 white flags today, so they really kicked the line in Monaghan today, which was probably surprising by the margin of victory. But as we had a quiet mention during the week, it would either galvanise them or it didn't. Whatever went on against Kerry the last day, and it maybe it backfired the other way. But as you say, maybe some teams are putting a big block of training in now, and could be a bit leggy on it. Maybe it's just they're getting ready for 4 or 5 weeks till championship, and trying to get a serious hard block of training in, and maybe they will suffer a bad game or a blip in performance just to get a bit of hard training into the legs before. So I don't know if we can read too much into it. Monaghan could be a different animal next week, and they get a bit of rest and recuperation into the legs over the next couple of days, and they'll go again. So. But Monaghan, Kildare, we can't rule out Kildare. It'd be nice for them to put it up. I think Armagh could do it a wee run out in Croke Park before the championship.
Definitely, Paul, definitely. 110%. And moving on to Newbridge, you had Kildare, 24 points, Monaghan 112. And Kev, it's not a great result for Banty McEnany's men.
Horrible result, leaves him at the bottom of the table. Didn't turn up today, simple as that. I said to you last week, I fancied them going down there. Bit of momentum coming out of the Donegal game. I think we would have all expected them to go down to Kildare and put in another good performance. Just didn't turn up. What was really disappointing for them is, I think Conor McManus scored 8 points, 7 from frees, 1 from play. Gary Mohan scored 3 points. And that was the bulk. I think they had 3 or 4 scores overall. Conor McCarthy got a goal maybe when they were 10 points down, I think just after half time, and it really took the gloss off what was an incredibly poor performance from Monaghan, from the highs of last week to the lows of this week. On the flip side of that, Kildare incredibly good. Monaghan can't expect to be in Division 1 to go to a ground like Newbridge, which is a hard place to go no matter who the visiting team is. And they basically give them a Kildare 6-point head start before Monaghan even scored. And then they give them a 4-point head start again in the second half before Monaghan even registered that goal by McCarthy. So really, Kildare got off to a flyer in the first half. The full forward line scored 15 points between them. Obviously Kildare didn't start the game without Daniel Flynn, which would have been a big loss, and Monaghan maybe thinking, it's a bit of a plus for us. Others compensated. Dara Kerwin kicked 0-5 in full forward from play. Ben McCormick, listened to on in the radio, was exceptional from back to front. His workman-like performance, up and down. He mightn't have got taken over the scoreboard as often as others did, but the work that he did do was certainly helping others getting on the board, and he was a good team player and today for them. And when you look at it, it was the biggest score that Kildare had turned over since 1990. They scored 425 against Kilkenny in 1990, And this was the biggest amount of white flags that they'd raised, you know. So it gives you an indication of, you know, Monaghan were all at sea at the back. You know, when a team's kicking 0-25, when a full forward's kicking 0-5, you know, the defence mustn't have been anywhere. I'm sure Banty's very, very disappointed at this result. It leaves them, basically, for me, it leaves them up shit without a paddle. Up shit's creek without a paddle, get into the game next week against Dublin, you know, and Dublin are coming to Clonus next week with, you know, on the back of 2 successive wins. Who wonders where Monaghan's mentality is coming up the road tonight? On the flip side of that, Kildare have everything in their own hands. Who would have said that get into the league this year? You know, the man sent off after 60 minutes as well today for 2 yellow cards. And still, you know, the last 10 minutes of the game, they seen out the game pretty handily. So, you know, it's this time last week we were maybe thinking Monaghan, you know, could be safe in this division, you know, going into Newbridge today. Now they're odds on for the drop, in my opinion. And that's not looking good for them getting into the championship. You know, okay, I think they play down in the Ulster Championship, which we would all expect them to win that game. But no, how a week can make so much of a difference. And I don't really know where Monaghan go from here, if I'm honest with you.
Probably Spy nightclub in Monaghan there would be a good shout tonight, I'd say.
As long as there's no boxing outside.
Would tickets be hard to get for next week, Kev, down in Clonus, if you're coming from Cavan?
I would say there would be a low. I say, you know, the one thing about Monaghan is they're very unpredictable, but as I said to you in previous weeks, they haven't been good at home this year. They've picked up all of their points, I think, away on the road in the league this year, yeah. So a point in Armagh, a point in Monaghan, 2 up in Donegal, a point in Tyrone and 2 up in Donegal. So, look, their home form, wee bit, you know, questionable. They weren't very good against Mayo in Clonus. Okay, conditions that day were pretty poor. But Dublin are coming to town with a lot to prove. There'll be a lot of Dubs travelling up there as well. I would expect a huge crowd in Clonus next week. An absolutely huge crowd. But I would still, we'll come to talk about it maybe shortly, but for me, a lot of momentum's against Monaghan at the minute, and you know, there's still that over-reliance on McManus.
You Cavan ones might head to that game too. We're playing Waterford, so wait and see. We will wait and see. And in the last game of Division 1 this weekend, in Croke Park, Dublin 2-15, Donegal 2-11. Nice close game. Paddy McBurdy was on absolute fire for Donegal, Paul, but it just wasn't enough for the men from the hills of Donegal.
Where's Donegal? Yeah, it's good to see Paddy McBurdy back. Well, hopefully it wasn't for another few weeks, but he's back firing on all cylinders. He's a hell of a player.
Shorts up.
He's a hell of a player, and one of Donegal's, you know, main go-to guys to get scores. You know, he's a bit of a wand of a left foot there. Very impressive. I seen the tail end of it on TG Car there this evening. Just as we come back in from the Armagh match, and yeah, Dublin. What can you say? Dublin seemed to be back on the go. I think Donegal got a couple of goals and really kept the pressure on Dublin the whole way through. But Dublin just seemed to be coming to the boil nicely. A lot of talk and a lot of stuff going on about them in the first 3 games. We beat them below in Croke Park, and you know, the first few games they didn't really show us any intent, I suppose, or any want or any desire to come to the fore. But now this last game, they gave Tyrone a good old pacing last week. Today again, to go down to Donegal and Croke Park, and then to give them a good game and come out on top. So Dublin coming all right at the right time. Maybe all talk about their demise could be a wee bit premature, but you know, Donegal come down to Croke Park and give them a game as well. You know, you have to applaud them for that. Michael Murphy, I think he come on and did right well and got a good bit of possession. And he's a man mountain that. He's still going. He must. I don't know how many years senior football he's playing. Is he what age? He's 33, is he?
He's there since 2009.
2009. Because remember we played them in a National League game, I think in 2009. And I think Paddy O'Rourke was over us, yeah, and he come on. He was after winning something on under 21s the day before, so he wasn't at this full. But that was the first I came across him, and so he's there since, he's never present. Like, and that's a long time about, and he's sort of, as a lot of people say, carrying that team this last few years with his performances, and you know, he's a hell of a player to have with them. But along with him and Paddy and a few of the other boys there, you know, there's still a kick in Donegal as yet, and I'd be very wary of them myself going forward. You know, we have them next week. I don't know what sort of a game that's going to be, as I've sort of said, but in the championship, definitely a banana skin down in Ballybuffet where they haven't lost for so long. But yeah, Donegal and Dublin was probably a particularly good game, but we have to see where that leads them next week. Dublin is still probably waiting on Kevy's best friend Carl Vorderman for next week to see what way it goes.
And in fairness, Paul, if you do get a chance to watch the game in full, but you know, you literally knew from minute one onwards, like Niall Scully, Kieran Kilkenny, Brian Fenton, Dean Rock were just absolutely on it. There's such a change in Dublin's momentum the last couple of weeks. I don't know what they're doing in training, but it's working. And in fairness, I know Desi Farrell's come in for a lot of criticism in the last couple of weeks, but by God, he's been through the middle of the last probably year at this stage, Paul. But it's good to see a smile on that man's face again.
Yeah, listen, you can take what you want from people, you know, giving out from the sidelines and listening to rumours, but you know, maybe the boys have just, you know, had a tough couple of seasons. Maybe they took the foot off the pedal for a wee while. Desi's got them back, probably singing off a hymn sheet now. He wants them back in. I've seen a couple of the finishes. Niall Scully took his goal beautifully.
A great finish, yeah.
Bagged the penalty in off the underside of the crossbar. You couldn't have put it anywhere lovely.
That wasn't a penalty, I don't think.
I thought he overcarried and it should have been a free out, to be honest.
Harsh,
I seen that wee bit all right. And it was Michael Fitzsimmons, going through, and you know, he took 8 steps. I counted steps in the replay, and it was 8 or 9 steps. I know players get away with it, but I thought it probably was a free out. But he got the penalty and he bagged it. And you know, when we say about Dublin, like, these players are the best players we've seen in a generation of Gaelic football. You know, they're all coming about with their 5 and 6 All-Ireland medals. You know, they don't become bad players overnight. So as the season goes on, they're going to get better. They've more players to come back in. Dublin are going to be thereabouts. I have no doubt about that there. We were talking about the cracks and all there this last few years, but you know, maybe a wee bit of the softening they got last year and then the defeat will bring them players back in and maybe knit them together, and they'll put another shove in, because they're very, very capable. And if you see the form that they're starting to show this last couple of games, and to bring that through to the championship, they're still going to be there in your semi-final and finals of an All-Ireland championship. There's still nothing in Leinster that can touch them if they play like that there, and that's the way it will be going forward, because then players are full of class and full of poise, and probably some of the best players in the country.
Kev, nice dry day in March. Swallows flying around Croke Park. Dublin winning a game of football. Normality's back.
Yeah, I'm not a lot to say about it other than obviously Paul's touched on a lot of it, bar maybe 2 things. We asked for leadership last week from Dublin. We've now got the leadership again. Yes, I understand. Paul makes a really good point about, look, the guys have been on the road for an awful long time, and to keep that consistency there. But they've been in the trenches and they needed leaders. Last week, Kilkenny and Fenton were immense. This week, the work of Brian Howard, the work of Niall Scully getting up and down the park. But for me in particular, and people talk about Clifford being the best footballer in the country at the minute, maybe closely followed by the likes of Rian O'Neill or Shane McGuigan, you know, who are scoring their lights out. Let's look at this guy. James McCarthy is an absolute and utter thoroughbred.
Great addition, yeah.
If he was able to run in Cheltenham last week, he probably would have won.
I would have backed him.
You know, he's that good of a player, and he's that important. He's that important to Dublin. You know, and he's, you know, again today in from the start. You know, he got a wee taste against Tyrone last week. Great leadership. Another one back. Now they'll wait for maybe Con to come back in the next couple of weeks if he's coming back. You know, and all of a sudden the wheels of progress are beginning to turn. Now let me be honest. I was critical of Dublin, and I was critical of Dublin because they've set their standards so high, but they're a wee bit, you know, they played them first couple of games without that punch and that drive that we're used to from Dublin. And there wasn't a lot of leadership or direction coming from it. But in the last 2 games, I've sort of seen that. And as well, you know, Tom Lehef has got a couple of games in the middle of the park, seems to be coming on a wee bit like we were talking earlier on about Armagh, the guys getting exposure at that age, and new guys coming in getting Division 1 exposure. Tom Lehef's been there. Sean Bulger was quite good today at centre half forward, another guy that's brought in, give a bit of game time too. And Cormac Costello started constantly this season again, the second season really in. Him and Dean Rock are continually, turning over the scoreboard. So, that leadership that's being provided, the guys coming back, plus the fact of a couple of new additions coming in, I see them getting in, next week against Monaghan, and I do see them rescuing this whole situation that, nobody would have foreseen before the start of the league, that come the last weekend of the league, we'd be talking about Dublin getting relegated.
Yeah, madness. Yeah, you'd feel that if Monaghan come with the same sort of game face that they came today to the game, Dublin will wipe the floor with them. Like, you can't. I don't know if you can see that happening again with a Monaghan team, but Monaghan, I think Dublin are at the start of their season now. And if Monaghan aren't up to the game next week, you could be talking another sort of trimming again, like the 23 flags by Kildare, and how far are Dublin down the line in comparison to Kildare at this stage? You'd imagine Dublin are a better team than Kildare, and Monaghan really would have wanted to be up in the game plan and their work rate and everything else that goes with it for next week. Or there could be, it's only one way they're going to go, and that's down.
Talk about money.
Could you just say one thing, John, about Donegal on the flip side of that? Donegal are a real bother, and we knew this before. Look, Langan's a good player. He's not really playing at the minute. Jason McGee, Hugh McFadden chip in the scoreboard at times. Obviously, McBurdy and Jimmy Brennan, we know their quality. But Donegal is still this problem. Paul was talking about it earlier. Like 2009, Murphy started from. And we're talking earlier on, John Casey's commentating in the match today, the former Mayo player. And he's saying what myself and Matty have been saying for weeks on here. Donegal's big problem is, where do you play Murphy? And that's the big problem McGeeney's probably going to be posed with in 3 or 4 weeks' time when they come to the championship game. Murphy goes inside a full forward, big long ball in, the ball ends up in the back of the net. He causes so much hassle in there, but he's as good out around midfield. He's as good at centre half forward as well. So, Donegal have big questions in around where they're going to start Murphy. And then who's going to be able to assist him other than McBurdy? If you stop them two at the minute, you're a hell of a long way to stopping Donegal.
Yeah. Well, you could Owen Baughan or maybe Langdon as well.
Ryan
really good players as well. Ryan McHugh's there. He still brings the work rate and appetite for work that he does. But if you say they're the two big shots in Donegal, Murphy and McBurdy at the minute, because you can see his quality today, and we need to be really on top of that there going forward.
We talk about finances, lads. We talk about money, but to start playing your League 5 games in and to win your last 3 to keep up, money doesn't buy brains, Paul.
No, listen, it's maybe an economy of effort. Maybe they could have. You're talking about the Dubs doing that and winning the last 3 games. Listen, 6 points probably is the target for survival at the start of the year. But if maybe the Dubs were doing what we're saying Monaghan were probably doing, they could have been doing a serious block of training there for the last 4 or 5 weeks, and you don't know what their plan of attack was. But I don't think Dublin are worried about winning leagues. I think they're only going to be counted on winning All Irelands, and that's where their heads at. And if, probably the same with a lot of teams coming probably into the latter stages of the league. What way, are they faced with their timescales coming in the championship? Do they need another game? Do they need to go down the route of another league game against, probably a battle match in Croke Park or a really competitive game? Or are they happy enough just to sit in Division 1 with their status? But the way Division 1 is now, there could be a lot of permutations next week, and you can end up maybe going down, or you can end up staying up. So there might need to be, and with all games at the same time, people need to probably be going for the win, just to be sure, because you don't know what other way other games are going at that time. But Dublin, if they squeeze through next week and they get 3 wins on the bounce, and it could be as Hannibal Smith used to say, he loves it when a plan comes together.
And by God, we know about the brains of Dublin GAA, so I would not be surprised, lads, if they pull it off. We will wait and see. Briefly, moving on to Division 2, because I know the clock is absolutely running on us tonight. We've Division 2, Round 6, Páirc Uí Chaoimh, Cork 116, Down 112, and Kev, Down are going down.
Yeah, and isn't it just unique? You know, I've been very critical of Down this year. By all accounts, Down should have won this game. They missed 3 goal chances, said to you last week. Down always create goal chances. Didn't really against Offaly. Did 4 goal chances in this game and took 1. And, you know, obviously Cork got a goal in the first half, and at that stage they're going 1-5 to 5 points up at half time, and Down are chasing the game a wee bit, and Cork are maybe able to knock them, just pick them off from the break. But Down have lost. Down were a point up against Offaly, lost the game. They should have maybe, by all accounts, taken full points out of Páirc Tailteann against Meath. And then again today, they should have won. They've ended up with 1 point in the league, and they could possibly have 6 at this stage. They're going down. The big problems are going to face a Division 1 team in the Championship in Monaghan. They're not really strong at the back. The management started out late this year, you know, in terms of strengthening. Dyson has said to you that I watched them against Roscommon, who absolutely bullied them. So, you know, Paul's talking there about teams peaking for the right time of year. Down have a serious amount of work to do over the next 3-4 weeks before the Championship starts. It hasn't been a good league for them whatsoever. On the flip side of that, Cork have given themselves a battling chance next week against Offaly. Basically, a winner-takes-all game. I think I heard this evening, or just looking at the league tables, Cork's score difference is -26. So nothing more than a win against Offaly will do next weekend. Draw is no good to them. A county like Cork to be in this position is a bit of a joke. But I said to you in previous weeks, Keith Rickens come in. He knows the under-20s. He has a good connection with them guys. He knows what the future of Cork football is. It's not going to happen overnight. Maybe this is the couple of wins that they need to grind out to really start making this team moving forward. But, you know, Cork's fate isn't sealed for another week. It's a big ask for them to go up to Offaly, who, you know, Offaly have been competitive over the last couple of weeks, and Cork have been very, very poor on the road. Very poor. So all of the points they've picked up so far have been at home. So, you know, that's a hell of a game next weekend at the bottom of 2.
Definitely is. It definitely is. We tried to get Dan on tonight, but he's out for points, Kev.
I would say that might be the first time all year he's been allowed points the way Cork have been playing.
And moving on to Owen Beg, lads. Galway 4-11, Derry 12 points. Paul Herity, Derry are getting a lot of reality served from them in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, that was surprising. I suppose a lot of people have been sort of talking about Derry and how organised they are and how much stuff to come on under Rory Gallagher, and big things expecting them this year, and people even saying that, you know, they'd be maybe even tipping them to beat Tyrone in the Championship, and, you know, a dark horse. But by God, that's some trimming, like 4 goals. You know, that's them boys have fairly been pegged back and taken back down to earth with that performance. What do you say? Galway, you know, always been very, very competitive. Good team. Pádraig Joyce, you know, really good player. He's turned into be probably a good enough manager. He's his hands full probably with the Mayo boys and that there over in Connacht. But to go to Owen Beg and stick 4-12 past a Derry team which is supposed to be as well organised as we know Rory Gallagher teams generally are. His previous Donegal stint and Fermanagh stint, he usually has teams well drilled, hard to beat, you know, and seriously man managed. But, you know, and, you know, Derry have been playing very well, and, you know, people's eyebrows have been raised by the performances, and that's why people have been sort of talking about them possibly pipping Tyrone in the summer. But judging by that performance today, the heads will be down this evening. They'll have a queer lick in their wounds, and excuse me, they'll have to seriously reconsider what's happening there. But listen, it's this time of year. Maybe they're playing the long game, and maybe they've enough work done in the division to going forward. But we'll have to see what way they react to the games next week, and was it maybe just a blip in performance, and just a poor day for Derry, and maybe Donegal or Galway just hit the right note on the day with the 4 goals. But it would be concerning for Derry going forward.
4 goals. If only we knew a good goalkeeping coach around Ireland.
It's the boys out the field and past 14 first before it hit the keeper, lads. You know the crack.
Goalkeepers Union, man. Goalkeepers Union.
Oh yes, GKU is well alive here.
Very good, very good. And moving on to Cusack Park in Ennis, me 10 points, Clare 9 points. So Kev, Andy McAtee might have just cracked a smile after that game.
Yeah, well, look, I owe a double apology here. One to Galway because I said that they weren't Division 1 material because of the they proved me wrong. Look, when you're wrong, you're wrong. I'm wrong
You're not
again
wrong.
on this.
You're never
because I watched Meath twice this year and I thought they were absolutely horrible. I'm not comparing them to Dublin in any way in terms of quality, but a bit like Dublin at the start of the year. There didn't seem to be no urgency about them, didn't seem to be no hunger or bite about them. They got absolutely hockeyed the first day out against Galway. In their second performance against Roscommon, who are proven, these 2 teams are proven to be the top 2 teams in the league. They were poor again. But in fairness to Andy McAtee, he's turned this around. They maybe got lucky against Down. They went in today against Clare, and I thought maybe, Clare would turn them over down there. Keelan Saxton looks to have had a very good game for Clare. Really classy player. And it looked as if Clare were in the ascendancy. They looked to have the game in their hands, and then all of a sudden, that Meath fighting quality that we know of the past has shone through. And obviously, Bram Matton again in the middle of the park has scored a couple for them. Jordan Morris up front hitting the freeze was quite accurate, and then all of a sudden, the game's nip and tuck coming towards the end, and it's at level. And Paul's talking about the goalkeepers union. It's very adept that we come on to this point. Absolutely crazy by the Clare goalkeeper. The game's in the balance. Both teams would be safe with the draw. He's got the ball. He decides to wander out, and he loses possession, and that obviously opens up the chance for James Cullen to get a last gasp winner for Meath. Another keeper out the field. We've seen it already this year with obviously what's happened up in Monaghan and Inniskeen in the Kerry game with Rory Began, and now we see it again down here in Clare. So, a bit of a surprise result for me personally to look at that. Meath have 6 points now in the league. Sorry, 5 or 6 points in the league now, which makes them safe. They're really in a position of static under Andy McAtee. So they're in a sort of static position, not really going anywhere, but maybe not poor enough to just go down. And, there was a lot of opposition against him getting a job again this year. I don't know, this might be just his last throw of the dice. But a bit of a surprise result for me. Clare, I think, will survive. And they'll probably, again, they have possibly a chance of, making the Leinster, the Munster final the way the draw is there. So who knows?
Super. And moving on to Borden and Mona O'Connor Park, you'd Roscommon 2-18, Offaly 14 points, and we have to say it's amazing what happens when Mr. Poacher left, Mr. Paul Herty.
He's loved giving Mr. Poacher a good old rub, don't you? Poor fella, he's a hard time. I suppose it's well earned. No, listen. I don't know. Listen, Roscommon up there with Galway, on 10 points, on a winner in the driving seat for promotion. They just seem to go up and down all the time, Roscommon. They're in between divisions. I think they're up there with. We would have good competitive games with them when we were in Division 2, trying to get up and down, and it was always between us and them.
They're like a yo-yo, Paul. Like a yo-yo.
Yeah, they just can't seem to. They're just in between 1 and 2, that type of way. And
1.5.
Probably the same as 1.5. We division there between 1.5, probably Galway and Roscommon and Derry and maybe
Cavan.
Dublin and Tyrone. You know what I mean? All them sort of teams down the lower end of the scale. No, listen, Galway, you're always Galway always competitive. Roscommon always seem to be very competitive, hard to beat. Some really good players down there, and you know they're up there with Galway. The 4 wins, couple of draws, they're up there in 10 points. So you know Derry's a point behind. It's just to see who gets through really in the next game. They're very, very, very close together there, and with the scoring difference as well. But we all know that you know Roscommon give you a game any day you go out. I always seem to get it tough against them, and you know Mr. Poacher, it was Roscommon he was with, was it?
Yeah.
Ooh, him and your man from Anthony Coyne, he's there a long time too. Yeah, we had a couple of run-ins with him now at Gary Castle. Was it Gary Castle? Yeah, he was manager with the club team and the county team at the time. Was it Gary Castle or St. Bridges? No, Gary Castle. Yeah. So he's there a long time. Mr. Poacher, I don't know. They seem to be doing all right now when he jumped ship. But here, listen, it's a game that really they seem to be in the clear anyway, and they're going to go forward. I'd say you'll get them two going up into Division 1 next year. I'd say the way things is panning out. Derry point behind. They have a lot to do next week. They'll have to be really, really forceful in their game and come out on top. It just seems to be the closest leagues in a long, long time, as you said earlier, Cavan. A lot of teams are really close together. The whole thing next week between relegations and promotions is still going down to the last game, and it's I don't think there's really too many dead rubber games next week going forward. So you know you've a lot of stuff to keep us interested from the next week or so.
But last point to that, Paul, and like obviously joking aside, but this is great to see Roscommon utilising the forwards that they do have, because realistically the forwards that they do have are probably some of the most promising forwards in Ireland.
Yeah, we have a lot of forwards in Roscommon who they're very direct. You know, they're good runners with the ball. I'm trying to think of a couple of names here.
Connor Cox, Morton Smith.
Yeah, Morton Smith. Yeah, them boys really, really good forwards. We had a fill of them boys for a good few years there with Armagh, and you know they are good forwards, and probably let off the leash a bit by, I suppose, Mr. Poacher leaving, because he's very sort of defensive guy and probably wanted everybody walking back behind the ball. Whereas, you know, when you have sort of guys with that sort of firepower, let them at it, let them off the field, let them run with the ball, and you know, wave the bit of magic, because that's what the game needs. You need these guys going up, you know, up the field, staying up the field, being an option, and taking players on, breaking lines. And you know, with a team like Roscommon that has them players, you know, you can get the scores that you know, wins you games, and then here we are. They're up in the top 2 positions, and they're ready to come back up to do the yo-yo job again up in the Division 1 next year.
go up to go down.
Up to go down. Well, they'd like to stay up there, but listen, it's they seem to be just there or thereabouts every year, and very competitive. And listen, they could probably they could pull a number in Connacht this year the way they're going at the minute.
Definitely good, Paul. That's a great win today. And we'll move on briefly to Division 3, lads. In MW Higher O'Moore Park, you had Limerick 15 points, Laois 14 points, and Kev, another fantastic win for Mr. Billy Lee.
Yeah, Billy Lee's team, favourites for promotion. Well, sort of them and Louth now. We'll come and talk about Louth in a minute. Snatched the win, went away from home. And, you know, look, they got up 2 years ago from 4. They had a year last year, maybe just bedding into this division, just treading water, and now they've kicked on this season. They've went the Lucian one, they've went the Antrim one. Did a bit of a blip at home to Louth in that tight game that was moved at the last minute, played during that storm in horrendous conditions. So that was their big blip, but sort of they've recovered from that game well. 2 wins on the bounce from it. Destiny's in their own hands. They've got Fermanagh coming down to the Gaelic grounds this weekend. You know, look, brilliant to see, you know, and if Limerick can get up a league, a bit like Clare, makes that Munster Championship a lot more competitive. Tipperary can get up a league as well. So, you know, it's good to see they're a good, big, strong, physical team. And, you know, on the flip side of that, Laois, I predicted them again. I got it wrong. Predicted them to go up this year with Westmeath. Laois have been absolutely horrible. And what's absolutely madness is they now have a relegation battle next week. It's shit or bust for them in Longford next Sunday. You know, and who would have thought that last year? And especially even at the start of this year, that they got the O'Byrne Cup final against Dublin. I know it's only a pre-season tournament, but they looked a bit more than well. They'd one or two good league wins at the start of the league. I think they went up to Louth and up to RD, which is a hard place to go, and they won there. And all of a sudden, it just collapsed. And you know, they found it hard to get a result in Wicklow, and now Limerick's beat them as well. So. Look, Laois, a lot of big problems around there. You know, it's just not moving in the right direction for them at the minute. But on the flip side of that, for Limerick, for another good win, pole position, everything's in their hands next weekend. And you know what? For the development of Limerick football, this last couple of years, this last 2-3 years has been really good for them. And they're a sort of team where a lot of other teams in Division 3 and Division 4 want to look at. The way that you become competitive in the championship is getting up a league, getting, you know, exposing your players to, you know, bigger games, you know, better players, better teams, and Limerick are doing that.
At least do a very passionate manager, Billy Sheehan, Kev.
Yeah, Billy's a passionate manager, and you know he played for Laois himself, and you know he obviously, you know, he knows the lie of the land there. He maybe knows a lot of the players from college and stuff, where he would have been involved in UCD for a while, and
he's a nice fella, Kev.
Yeah, but he's a bit of a character. Let's just say that. Very, very good character. I think him and Keir McKeever get on very well, from what I remember commentating on a match one day down in Laois. I think Keir McKeever introduced himself in the tunnel one afternoon to him. But bit of a character, yeah, and you know he's a big personality. And look, Laois has been in a bit of a, what's the best way to put it? They've been in a bit of a rut for a while now. Really, since Mayo left that job, you know, they've been really tumbling down. And
Ross Woodley's still playing too.
Yeah, so there's no consistency in Laois, and you know they've gone through manager after manager. So Billy's going to have a hard task in his hands.
Definitely. And moving on to the games today, you had Wicklow 20 points, Longford 2-13 in Glennon Brothers Pierce Park. So very, very close game, and the Longford lads will be very disappointed to lose that one, Mr. Paul Herty.
Yeah, Longford for a long time have been fairly competitive. They're not really supposed to probably be disappointing with the performance today. Wicklow, you know, down to Wicklow, probably just we went beyond them today. And you know, historically Longford always had a fairly good selection of players to pick from, and always very competitive in Leinster. I remember years ago they were definitely they got a few scouts over the years, but they just got over the line today. So and they're looking up the table as well. But Wicklow, I don't know. It's a really tough battle going down there. Everything seems to be really close, and every performance is very important for them going forward. You know, and it's a tough place to be. But you know, you have to get every week you go in down there. It's everybody's fighting to get up and down the table, and it's a real tough battling ground. But you know, I didn't really see the match. I can't really comment too much on it, but. You know, we're just looking at the tables and how things go on the tables not there, but it seems to be it's another close division too.
You're waiting on League Sunday to show that game, Paul. That's the reason.
More or less, you see, you've got us on a wee bit of a thread bearing here. We can't really see the highlights, so it's all right for you by sitting in the house looking at all your different streams on your dodgy box to say I didn't see the game today. Trying to bluff your way through here, to be honest.
Like we all do on this podcast, Paul. Don't worry. Jesus Christ. So Kev's an expert in fairness to him, so he says.
So he says, but yeah, it's all right. You do need to see the highlights of these games to be able to make a comment on them. But as you're at that Armagh game today, and there's no point probably just trying to bluff through Division 3 boys.
100%.
Well, Paul, for all the bluffing, nobody else had the bird's eye view that you did today for Armagh versus
Best seat in the house.
Yeah, well, it's not too bad when you can stand up on the wee terrace there. There isn't really a bad seat in Armagh or even in the terraces. So it's good to, you have a good vantage point most places you go on it, in fairness.
Can't do when you're 7 foot.
That helps. God help the person behind me. That's the only thing. You get the wee, you hear the discerning views of people behind you. Oh, Jesus, look at this fella in front of us.
Oh, brilliant stuff. And moving on to RD, you'd Louth 112, Antrim 18, and is the party over, Kev?
Yeah, it looks to be. Very disappointed actually today. We just didn't turn up. Look, again, the Sam Mulroy show. Again, comes back to your point, John, that you just put to Paul, and Paul has said it. We don't get enough exposure for these teams down Division 3.
What did Sam say?
Sam Mulroy has absolutely been tremendous this league, shooting the lights out every week consistently.
What did he shoot today?
I think he shot 115, 16.
That's incredible.
You know, and that's just off the top of my head, you know. So again, you know, the story of the game, Louth started pretty well. We're in the ascendancy up at half time. Antrim then come back a bit. Mulroy puts him, I think, 9-5 up, and Antrim get a goal. There's only a point in the game. It's nip and tug. Antrim seem to then have got the initiative between their teeth, and who pops up with the most important score? Sam Mulroy bangs the ball into the back of the net. Again, very much like Limerick, except maybe a year faster. Mickey Hart's only been in the job less than 24 months. Himself and Gavin Devlin. Gavin widely touted as one of the best coaches around. From anybody.
Sam Mulroy said that in an article the other day, that he was very impressed by Horst Devlin. Yeah,
I know. My younger brother lives in Arboe there. Connor lives in Arboe, and obviously that's where Gavin's from. He says he's a phenomenally talented coach. He's well got by a lot of people. And, you know, Mickey Hart's in there with them. Obviously, as I said to you before, there's a lot of buy-in from people in Louth. There's a lot of fundraising going on there. Paul's pretty close to it, so he would know. And, you know, when Mickey took that job, they'd come down a couple of leagues. I think maybe over 3-4 years, they dropped from the bottom of 2 right down into 4. In 2 seasons now, it looks as if they're going to get promotion. You know, they've to go to Wicklow next week, as Paul has articulated just a minute or two ago. That's a very difficult place to go. But, you know, the run that they've been on, they didn't start the league well off. Laois beat them at home in RD. And then the ground out of last minute, I think it was draw at Longford. And from then on, they've kicked on. You know, they beat Westmeath at home, they beat Antrim at home, and went away to Limerick and won. You know, they beat the teams around him. And, you know, he deserves an awful lot of credit. And, you know, Mickey has sort of built a team in there and a philosophy in there. And, you know, again, how do we get a competitive Louth in Leinster Championship outside of, you know, obviously the juggernaut that is Dublin? You get them up the leagues and you get them playing competitive games. And, you know, look at where they are now. They have a bit of momentum. And I suppose if they win next week, they'll be looking to go into the championship and see if they can take a scalp or two. And, you know, all credit to these guys and fair play to them. On the flip side of that, for Antrim, the big issue is didn't make their, you know, they let Limerick come up and bully them at home, drop points there. They went to Laois. By all accounts, should have really won that game, come out with a draw. You know, that's 3 points dropped, and then you go to a game today against Louth, who came up with you last year, and you don't really turn up, you know, and that's the moral of the story is if you drop 5 points in the National League, you wouldn't be expecting to go up. That's the reality of the situation. And unfortunately, you know, they're dependent on others next week to see if they can get promoted. If they do get promoted, it's a brilliant bonus. If not, then, you know, it's been a decent 24 months in the job for him again. You know, there's good progress been made. He's building something there. They're competitive. You know, I think their aim for this year would have been to stay in the league and have a good competitive championship if possible. They've definitely done that. So they look forward maybe to Cavan in 4 weeks' time.
100%, Kev, 100%. In the last game of Division 3 in TEG, Cusack Park, you had Westmeath 1-9, Fermanagh 12 points. So points were shared on this occasion, Paul.
Yeah, points shared. Again, not too much exposure to us guys from Westmeath and Fermanagh. You just imagine with us being so competitive, Fermanagh would try and really, really competitive going in for the championship this year. And I suppose down there probably very, very difficult for them. But they'll have themselves in Westmeath. We've had a couple of probably matches against them in the not too recent past too, when we've been when we've went up and down through the divisions before we got up here. And both counties very, very competitive. But it's tough down there in the leagues again. I haven't seen much of Fermanagh or Westmeath, to be honest, and I didn't see much of the game today, as I said to you before. But to be very honest, it's hard to give you a roundup of the game because I didn't fucking see it.
I should use that as an intro.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it is. It's difficult to give you an analysis of the game when we didn't actually see it. So I'm going to be honest with you,
Paul, I appreciate your honesty, because if that was Johnny Murtagh answering that, he would give the biggest bluff answer even.
Yeah, well, no point bluffing there, but I didn't see the match. So, but I just on the previous post you were putting about Louth and Antrim, we do have a guy in Cross that he does the strength and conditioning, and he has been in with us a few times. He's Kieran Sloan, and he does say that the buy-in from the boys in Louth has been very good, and they're very impressed with Mickey and the horse as well. The way they go about their business and how they're conducting the whole setup. It's probably been a while since they've probably had such a
professionalism.
A bit of professionalism. The whole thing brought to a level that they probably haven't been at before. And as you say, everybody's on board. Mickey's got the buy-in from everybody, and he's got probably whatever he goes to the county board and asks them for, he's getting. You know what I mean? So they're getting the top quality. Coaching, top quality facilities, up there in Derby is very good. And Kieran Sloan's a very good sort of strength and conditioning coach as well. He does a bit with us here on Cross, and he would remark that Mickey's had all the respect and all the everything that Louth probably were lacking for a lot of years there as well. So you can see where that's brought them. It's as you say, in the Division 4. I suppose the only way it was up. And he's done remarkable work there to bring the guys up to, as you say, Cavan, to bring them, try to get them competitive in the championship, and that's the only way to get them up against better teams is to move through the leagues. And he's doing a very well job there, and he's probably guaranteed another couple of seasons there.
Going to ruin your night by saying this, but Horst has them galloping up through the leagues.
Yeah.
Oh,
you're ruining it.
It is Mickey's offsprings down there, and that's with Antrim too. So we want to see Antrim pegging up through the leagues too. Mr. McGinley and O'Neill and the boys.
Oh, thoroughbreds in Division 3, huh?
Now this is where it gets interesting. Division 4, lads. Round 6 in lovely London. Ruislip. Cavan 115, London 211. And I believe, and a lot of people were criticising me this weekend, a lot of Cavan people went over to this game, Kev. They paid their flights, they paid their accommodation, and they're loving the crack.
Hold on a minute, Kev. The way I didn't see this game either. I don't know if you've seen it. We have the resident Cavan man here on the job. John, how about your analysis of the game? Well, how is your stream?
He didn't pay for one, Paul. He didn't pay for one.
Yeah, their gigabits wouldn't be that good over there in Cavan, would it not?
You knew it was a lie from the start when he said there was a load of Cavan people paying for flights over and paying into the game. There's more chance of Vladimir Putin winning the Nobel Peace Prize than there was.
Yeah, here, what do you call it? Oxford Street was a wash for Cavan people the weekend.
Yeah. In the designer outlets, spending millions of pounds.
Oh, yes. That's a good exchange rate for the euro at the minute.
No, John, I suppose Cavan people were probably sweating like a Mexican in a Chicago summer pouring a concrete match, it wasn't, look, got off to a great start, after 20 minutes the game looked over, 1-5 to a point up. cruising right through the half time. Again, I mentioned that man, Geroid McKiernan kicked 3 points just on the cusp of half time. You're going in there, the game's basically over at half time. It's a matter of going out and, the experience that you have, the bench that you have, boys there have also championship medals in their pocket, have played in Division 2, you would have been expecting so much more from them. And unfortunately for Cavan, they made it very, very difficult for themselves. And, you have to give London a bit of credit too. They came back into the game. They looked dead and buried, as I said, after 20 minutes. Obviously, Henry Welch knocked 1-2 for them. And then, London had been quite competitive in most games up to this. They got a bit of a hiding last out against Sligo. So coming into the game, you would have thought maybe Cavan hitting them early would have really knocked the stuffing out of them. And by half time, it looked that way. But in fairness, the response was good. And in the second half, really, Cavan got the first point. But then, London come right back into the game. Liam Gavigan, I think, hit 0-5 overall, a couple of frees. So, he was quite influential in that second period. And then, okay, they did get a penalty in injury time to make it a 1 point game. And then when it was following on Twitter, it looks as if, even Raymond Galligan, the usual reliable Raymond Galligan, nearly fired the ball over his own line, in the last minute or two. So, that would have give London a quite unlikely win, especially after what we considered was a rocket of a start from Cavan. So look, job done for Cavan. They're up a league now. I suppose, as I say, they only won alongside Kerry and Galway. They know their fate heading in the next weekend's games. They play, they've Waterford coming up next week to Breffni Park, which you would imagine would be, no disrespect to Waterford, a routine enough game. They'll probably give the squad a run. But, bit of worrying signs in the Sligo game for Mickey Graham. That they didn't really turn up in the first half there. Tipperary started well against them. And then, even though they started this game well, they let London back into the game. So the last 3 games for Cavan have some worrying signs. But at the end of the day, their target was to get up out of this league, and they've achieved that.
Yeah, probably a lot to do with that. I know no disrespect to London, I'm not there, but it's very hard to go over there to be motivated. A lot of baggage with it, heading over in a flight, or maybe they drove. I don't know what way they got over, but you know what I mean.
Price of petrol, Paul, that took the flight.
Yeah, I know. I've been over and raced up during my career between All Ireland quarterfinals with Cross, and been over with Armagh, I think once. Probably we were over across 3 or 4 times, and there's a lot going on. Like, you're over, you're getting flights, hotels, and things, and all that. For the weekend. Yeah, you can't go down to Oxford Street, all that sort of crack. Maybe try and get in a Premier League match in London if you manage to get a bit of free time. But there's a lot of stuff going on, and you might get a few boys. You might want to tip down the road for a few scoops, But
the boys were the beer last night, convinced of it, absolutely convinced of it.
That's what happens. You're going over there and you're expected to win, and the foot comes off the gas, and the next thing,
sneak out the window.
You realise you're in a match and things aren't going your way. So there's a lot of stuff going on for a game of football, which a lot of players aren't really used to taking flights. And when you hit the airport on flights, all that's in your head is fluffy pints.
Yeah.
So, but to be going and doing a job like that, there it can be the last thing in your mind, and that can tamper with your performance. So I can sort of maybe see where the performance came out of, but Mickey Graham probably glad to get up the division, back to Division 2. Now it's just
3,
as you say, Kerry, Division 3, and get the preparation for Championship into full flow.
Yeah, lads, we got out of jail, but God, it should have been more convincing, and the Cavan faithful definitely shouldn't have been happy with it. To be honest, it probably was a bit embarrassing, really, and a lot of word coming from it that it was a very poor performance, and London probably deserved the victory towards the end of the game. So if I was Mickey Graham, Shawnee Johnson, Rice McMenamin, I would be sweating a lot this week. But hopefully we have a convincing win against Waterford this coming Sunday. And moving on to Fairfield, Sligo 15 points, Waterford 111. Sligo, Tony McAtee, your club man, he got a win. Paul Herty.
Yeah, good to see Club mate getting a win down there. I know he's putting on a serious effort. He has his finger in a couple of pies. He's on the 15s here across as well, so he's juggling the two mightily well. good to see Sligo going well, getting the win. Ultimately, it's all about championship probably for Tony too. Well, as you say, same as Louth, get up the divisions, probably make them more competitive, try and play against the better teams, and he's up there with a shout, I think, of promotion next week, if they're probably still in the mix. But as you say, it's getting into the big two for Tony Mack in the championship, be it Galway or Mayo, trying to make a dent in there and trying to make them as ultimately as competitive as possible. But he'll probably, as a new manager coming in, he'll need them couple of seasons to sort of probably get his imprint onto the team and get them playing the way he wants to. Because I know firsthand, a former club mate of my own and a manager, he managed us back in the early 10s, 10, 11, 12, how thorough he is and how deep he goes into his play and the way, the format he wants the team to aspire to. And just trying to probably convey that to get it done by the Sligo panel. He'll have his work cut out. But no better man for the job, and it's good to see him getting the results down there in Sligo.
Definitely. And in the next game, in Avant Money Park, Sean McDermott, it was Leitrim 3-9, Wexford 1-11, and Kev, poor old Matty Ford, he loses another game.
Yeah, well, Matty had warned us that Wexford's away record over the last 3-4 years had been abominable, and no change here. Obviously, Leitrim's trajectory is very much on the way up under Andy Moore, and again, we talked about somebody sort of similar to him before in McEntee, who is very much a professional, who'll bring that in, who'll demand results off players. And so Leitrim this year, I think they're on 8 points now, 7 points, so they've done pretty well, been pretty competitive after a very poor Division 3 last year. And obviously, Wexford coming in had been very Jekyll and Hyde in the league. I spoke to Matty last week about it. They probably could be further up the league. Lost to Tipperary, 4 goals to concede against Tipperary, just about beat London. Very poor, lacklustre performance against Waterford. So you don't know what really to expect from Waterford. From Wexford. They started brightly, but then really Leitrim came into the game. And Dara Rooney was quite influential. Again, Ryan O'Rourke, a guy we spoke about before, who's quite a good player. Again, was quite potent up front for them. He blasted a goal, I think it was about 48 minutes in, which was quite a crucial score. So, it was even enough coming towards the end, really. And then, at the end, Wexford really, there was a late goal, really, but for Leitrim. And the thing about that is that I suppose we don't see a lot of these teams down there. But Leitrim has sort of turned the corner this year. Dara Rooney got 1-2. Ryan O'Rourke's got 1-2 for them. They were really, really poor last year in Division 3. They've changed manager. They've that professionalism about them. Next year, I think we'll start to see them really as an entity. It's 1 year in for Andy Moore. Wouldn't expect much out of them in the championship, all due respect to them. For Wexford, on the flip side of that, again, they're down at the very bottom of Division 4. Really, is that what they should be? Not really. Mark Rosser's, again, a guy who's been about for quite a while. He kicked not 2. Donald Shanley kicked not 3 from play, which was quite a good outing for him. But, they've been too inconsistent, and, they need that consistency. They need to start with the youth. They need to start, looking back down, as Johnny Murray said last week about Cork, taking one game at a time, taking the basics, trying to build momentum. But certainly Leitrim have momentum. They won this game, okay. The goal at the end it was much tighter, at that stage. I think it was 15-14, and Leitrim get a late goal. So, good win for Leitrim. They're still in this outside chance of promotion, very outside chance. But I think Andy Moore will be happy enough for the season. For Wexford, it's back down to the drawing board, really.
They can't go back down a division. That's all. That's it. And in the very last game of the weekend in FBD, Semple Stadium, Tipperary 2-16, Carlow 11 points, and Big Paul Herty, David Power is finally getting the tune out of these Tipperary footballers.
Yeah, Tipperary. I suppose, what do you say after their Munster victory couple of seasons ago. Was it a couple of seasons? Not 2018, was it? On the
2020.
2020. Just that wasn't that long. It's a couple of seasons. But you think that would have been a real springboard for them to push on even greater heights. But they haven't really done much, I suppose, in the league this last while. But they really need to be pushing themselves up. They were competitive enough to win a Munster. A bit like Cavan, they won the Ulster title a couple of years ago, and we thought that would have been a springboard for them going to bigger and better things. But it hasn't really turned out like that there. But if they can get the competitiveness in the league this year, like they've been going, and it is a push for Munster. They really have to probably try and get in there, get the performances up. They have some really good players we've seen a couple of years ago, a couple of really good forwards, and they can obviously have been competitive before. There isn't nothing. But how do you get that consistency into these guys? You know what I mean? To get it day in, day out, and to push themselves on rather than being down in the lower divisions. Because obviously when you're taking on provincial titles, you are at the top end of things. But they really need to get that consistency going forward. And Mr. Perry get them all singing off the same hymn sheet a wee bit like Mickey Hart has done. And, the likes of Kieran McGeeney and some of these boys, it's about getting these guys to believe in your plan. And if that's the case, and he has got the boys all, singing off that hymn sheet, the sky can be the limit for some of them players when you have a pool of players that have the talent to go and get performances. So we'll see does that transpose in the next couple of weeks about them guys going forward.
And just a brief word, and Carlo. Worrying times, Paul.
It is. They're probably down where they don't want to be. It wasn't that long ago. Your friend, Mr. Poacher, was there, and they were scaring the life out of Leinster with a good run, and with their own Mr. Chris Crowley playing for them. He's up playing with us in Cross now. He's moved up to this part of the world.
That's the player you couldn't name that last time. Remember?
Yeah. Chris Crowley, I can imagine I couldn't name him in my own club, but that's the way things go sometimes in my brain. But they got a good run back then. But yet again, another team that hasn't been consistent and tried to drive the thing forward and bring it on. They've got that good performance one year and then just seemed to bear heavy on them, and they've tailed off. But it's hard for everybody to be very good every day they go out, and somebody has to be down there. But listen, they have to try and get that sort of spirit and that drive and that sort of team bonding and team spirit back, and try and get some performances back again, because there is 12 teams in Leinster, so there is one really at the top of the tree in Dublin, and the rest of them have a fighting chance to probably get into sort of quarterfinals, semi-finals of Leinster. But it's tough for the likes of Carlo and that at the minute, where things aren't going so well for them.
Worrying times because they could be stuck there for many years. Briefly moving on to next weekend's action, lads. I suppose this weekend's action really in Division 1, round 7. I suppose in a word, lads. Donegal, Armagh, Letterkenny at 1:45 on Sunday. Paul Herty.
Yeah, looking forward to it. As we said earlier, we can possibly get in, judging by other results. I think Mayo Kildare has to take care of business with Mayo, and possibly if we beat Donegal, we could end up in the final with Kerry. Kerry obviously rubber stamped their position in the league finalists against ourselves, but we're still in with a shout to get another. It'll be another real good chance to get another game before the championship against Donegal. So, are we in a quandary next week about going and showing all the full deck against Donegal? I think we should probably go for a chance to get another game against in Croke Park against the best team. It's a real good sort of preparation for championship. So next week, I think we're on an upward curve. I think. I know we've had a couple of defeats, but as I say, we've been very competitive. We've done things, well. We've shored up the defence to a certain extent. Surely we've had a wee blips along the way, but it's all a learning curve for these guys playing against the top teams week in, week out. So we're doing well. Donegal, very good team. We seem to put it up to the Dubs there for a long time today. Some really good players with McBurty. You have to keep an eye on Murphy, Bond, Langnan, all these other guys. So it's hard to know what to make of it. Go down to Letterkenny next week. Will Giza put his full hand on? If the two teams go out toe to toe, it'll be a good balance to see how it'll go in the championship. But I fancy ourselves to come out on top. To be honest, I think we're the team that has to bring the game to Donegal and lay down a marker for the championship. Donegal, been there. They've been winning Ulster titles this last while. However, we have not. So we need to probably go out, put a marker down. We're not going to lay down for these boys. And in 3 or 4 weeks, we're going to give them the fill of it. And no matter what sort of research and analysis they can do on a performance all year, we need to go out and put a performance in and try and win the game. And I think we have what it takes to beat Donegal this week and in the championship. But we really need to be at ourselves and bring a real game.
Definitely. Kerry v Tyrone in Fitzgerald Stadium at 1:45. Kev, what are you thinking for that one?
Well, people say that Kerry, this would be a no-brainer. Tyrone have everything to fight for. If results go against them, score difference goes against them, then they're down. And, we have to remember that I'm not too sure how this has worked out, because Tyrone went down there last year, or maybe the year before last, and got absolutely hockeyed. So I think this should have been a home game for Tyrone, if you know what I mean. So the way the fixtures plan out, if you understand me, to have to go to Kerry twice over the last couple of years is not on, first and foremost. But Tyrone are very inconsistent, having great structure. They're going to have to fight like dogs down there, because they are fighting, for their, to stay in that division. They have a lot of pride. The last time they went down, as I say, to Kerry, they got absolutely wiped. They wiped the floor with them, and I don't think they want that happen again. Look, Kerry they'll want to go out and make a statement here again against the All-Ireland champions. They got turned over by them in the All-Ireland semi-final last year, which I'm sure they're still hurting about. And I expect Kerry to put out a very strong team. And I expect them to go at Tyrone very, very early. I personally would be expecting a Kerry victory. Yeah. I think they've a very good forward line. Their midfield's coming on leaps and bounds. And I don't think this Tyrone have enough attackers, nor strength and depth in their squad to bring people on to trouble Kerry at the back. It's quite concerning, as I said to you earlier, about, Conor McKenna's not being about at the minute. Cal McShane's not shooting from all cylinders. Darren McCurry has been quite, quiet compared to his own standards of what he was last year. So everything points to Kerry, and Kerry, where they would usually be demotivated for this game and give the squad a run because there's nothing really to play for. This is Tyrone, and after what's happened, between the two teams over the last 12 months, I expect Kerry to come out and give them an awful pounding.
There you go.
Sorry if that sounded wrong, but an awful hammering. All right. Apologies for my choice of English language there.
Well, to be fair, we've probably gone beyond the stage of people listening. So, lads, they're just like, jeez, now we're 40. Jesus. There we go. Great terminology, Kev, as per usual. Mayo against Kildare, Avant Money Park, Sean McDermott at 1:45. Paul Herty.
Who did you say was playing there? I was still laughing.
Mayo. Oh, Lord. Mayo against Kildare in Avant Money Park, Sean McDermott.
It's a fixture that is very probably important to Armagh going forward, and there'll be a lot of interest coming from the Armagh guys. Will be on the radios flat out in Letterkenny watching to see what way that game's going, to see if we can get into a league final if we're doing the business. So interesting to see Mayo, going well enough. They're up there. They're in with a shout probably too of a league semi-final as well. So they'll be looking to get to Croke Park and get another crack at Kerry as well. Very much so. Kildare, probably after the defeat to Armagh, we've had them be 5 points there last week in horrendous conditions in Armagh, and then to come back today and to peg over 23 points was very impressive. So there's momentum there with Kildare. So I think it could be a very close match. Kildare going rightly. I'm going to go for a draw. I'm going to go for a draw.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think Kildare going rightly. They're dangerous enough. Darrell Flynn, a handful, a lot of good players, and Kildare can drive forward and have a lot of direct players, direct runners. Mayo also very good players as well. Probably players to come back into it as well, where they don't, where they haven't enough options as last week. But I think Mayo going to Carrick and Shannon a wee bit, and Kildare going up there as well, obviously. But yeah, I'm going to go for a draw.
Super. There you go. Could be a bet of the weekend. Good odds on that. In the last game of Division 1 next weekend, you've Monaghan against Dublin in Clonus at 1:45. Kevin McGurty.
I fear for Monaghan. Quite simply.
Pounded.
Dublin. The momentum that Dublin are on at the minute, what they've showed over the last 2 games, as I say, as I said from the very, very start, I've never questioned how good they are in terms of their squad. What I'm really interested in is, the mentality of their leadership when they were down in the trenches, and we've seen that shine through. Hart, Scully, that sort of engine room of the team is now started to get there. They've got guys coming back. James McCarthy's coming back. They've got a couple of new guys coming in. Sean Bulger there, in particular in the forward line. Cormac Costello's shooting the lights out at the minute like he was last year. If Monaghan don't get a good start to this game, I really fear for them. They didn't start well, obviously, today down in Newbridge, and that's cost them. And Dublin are on a mission here, and it's very, very difficult not to see them taking the 2 points out of Clonus next weekend.
Super stuff. We are flying. The clock is flying, so we'll have to move on to Division 2, probably in a word at this stage, lads. Round 7, Down against Clare, Park Esler, 2 p.m. next Sunday. Paul Herty.
Down gone to the Dogs. I fancy Clare.
Kevin McGurty, Meath against Derry, Park Tolchin, 2 p.m.
It's a must-win for Derry. It's as simple as that. So Derry.
Offaly against Cork, Borough of Motor Park at 2 p.m. Paul Herty.
Cork gone to the Dogs as well, I think. Offaly, a bit of momentum about them. I fancy Offaly, definitely, yeah. Tom also shared working as a one down there. I think we'll get an Offaly victory. Super stuff. First Common Galway at Dr. Hyde Park, 2 p.m. Kevin McGurty.
Touchy one. Depends which Galway turn up. They might decide just to give Roscommon a wee walkover and then play them in the league final again and butter them up nicely. Roscommon.
Division 3, round 7. Antrim against Westmeath, Cargo Park, 2 p.m. Kevin McGurty. This stadium is a fantastic stadium.
Has to be Antrim.
There we go. Paul Herty, Laois Longford, MW Ohio Park, 2 p.m.
Has to be, I think, Longford. Make up for the day.
There we go. That could be a good bet. Limerick Fermanagh, 2 US Gaelic Grounds, 2 p.m. Kevin McGurty.
Limerick have to win it. It's as simple as that to go up. I think they'll do the professional job, and that's it.
Wicklow against Louth, Aughrim, 2 p.m. Paul Herty.
I think you can't look past Louth. I think at this stage, getting a bit of momentum there. Mickey's, as we discussed earlier, doing a good job. So we'll hit Louth with that one. Super stuff. And moving on to Division 4, Tipperary against London, FBD Semple Stadium at 7 p.m.
It has to be Tip. They need to win this. They win it, they go up. Professional job expected from Tip.
Super stuff. And moving on to Sunday's action, Carlow against Wexford, Netwatch, Cullen Park at 1 p.m. Paul Herty. Two teams on a downward spiral. We'll go for a draw. For a draw. Beautiful stuff. Loving all these draws. Kevin McGurty, Cavan against Waterford, Kingspan Breffni Park, 1 p.m.
You expect Cavan to run the bench, but still they would have far too much for Waterford. They have nothing to play for. Cavan all day long, and a bunch of Sundays after. A good pounding. Yeah. We're delighted it's not in Waterford. Saved a few pound in the there you have it. No more comment required.
Paul Hardy, it feels like an absolute marathon at this stage. Sligo against Leitrim, Mark Fitzpark, 1 p.m.
Oh, big tough. Tony Mack against Andy Moore, and geez, two teams on an upward spiral. Well, I think we'll go for another draw, will we? What do you think?
I hope you don't meet Tony Mack down the spar in Cross McLean this week.
Yeah, heart in the head, you know what I mean? But no. Listen, we'll give a 2-point victory to Sligo.
Super stuff. Right, very last thing, lads. Kevin McGurty, your player to watch next weekend and bet of the weekend.
Ooh. Player to watch is going to have to be either Rian O'Neill or Michael Murphy, because that game is going to be intriguing the way both teams set up. Michael Murphy and where he plays. Not to watch, but where he plays and who marks him and who picks him up. So that's going to be really intriguing. Bet of the weekend. Westmeath to beat Antrim in Belfast.
Oh, Jesus. He's lost the run of himself.
That wouldn't be good preparation for Carrick and Park or nowhere.
Just, you asked me for a bet, I give you a bet, guys. There you go.
Paul Hardy, what about yourself?
I'm going to stick on the same game, and I'm going to get Rian. He had a quiet enough day today. I fancy him maybe to turn the tide on Donegal the follow on next week. So yeah, we'll go with Rian to watch next week.
Super stuff. Brilliant stuff, lads. We nearly touched 2 hours, so that probably would have been a record for the JMAC podcast.
Jesus.
Christ help us. I see the kids coming in behind Kev there a couple of minutes ago, so he better bounce off. And Paul, but again, the Sunday game's in 15 minutes, lads, so we timed all this well, Kev.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I had to see a couple of games, it could have gone even longer.
Super. Kevin McGurty, Paul Hardy, thanks for joining me this week. And of course, this podcast is brought to you by Orgaretcha.com and Atak.ie. Use my promo code JMAC Podcast to get 15% off on Orgaretcha.com and get the best skins, gloves, equipment on Atak.ie. Be attack minded. If you like what you're seeing, like and subscribe on YouTube because the sport's been absolutely brilliant so far. Kevin, Paul, thanks a million.
Cheers, guys. See you, Paul.
All the best, Kev. All the best.